speech by Philip, which I marked in the text, but it seems to be key, particularly to your political plays, where he says people aren't their views, you know, they aren't their opinions, they aren't just what they say, they aren't the stuff that comes out of their mouths. Now, there's a little critique going on there, I think, of a certain kind of political play, in which, particularly in America, in which people simply do represent an opinion. Whereas in Vertical Hour and Skylight and the other plays, it's about the personal and the political. They have to be both, and they have to be characters.
It's what I feel so strongly, that why we believe what we believe. You know, the play is basically, you know, I think foreign correspondents are noble people. I admire them tremendously. I think this latest thing whereby, I don't know how many have been killed this year, but it's a shocking number this year. And this whole thing whereby they're now being appropriated on both sides in wars, and that everybody thinks they're entitled now to kill the correspondents, is a terrible development. And so I feel nothing but gratitude to these people. I think reporter is a noble profession. And the play is a virulent attack on this idea that there's something self-destructive about war correspondence. You know, we've had this since Vietnam, this nonsense about people who go to war are hooked on the danger. You know, they're doing it because they're inadequate people and they're going there to destroy their own lives, and they're in love with the danger and they have to go back to the front line. You know, if you meet someone like Christian Amanpour, or, you know, I don't know, Lise Doucette or these people now on the BBC, that on the contrary, they're just incredibly noble, rational people bringing us news of what we need to hear about. And partly, the play is an attack on that idea that you dare to attribute some psychological flaws to people who are actually doing great work on our behalf, you know? And the psychology of why you go to do that job is much more complicated than it is represented as being in all these stupid films about photographers who want to get themselves killed on the front line. It's just nonsense, that stuff.
Having seen this play 3 times with different actors, it always fascinates me that what actors bring. I assume that Peter Davison didn't see Bill Nye on Broadway, but I did. But they're completely, utterly, totally different performances. But certainly with the Warwick trilogy on TV, you did write for Bill Nye. But had you written Vertical Hour for it?
No, not in the slightest, no. I wrote the play, and then Sam Mendes said to me, the only person who can play this part is Bill Nye. And I said, oh, Bill Nye again, he's in everything I do. Sam said, no, but I took this play because I was so looking forward to working with Bill Nye. So we had to have Bill Nye.
But when you were
but there was a wonderfully vitriolic review in the New York Times, which, you know, where the critic said, you know, David Hare's dreadful play, and, you know, and in the stage instructions, the character of Oliver is described as quiet and, you know, self-contained. And then he said, but fortunately, Bill Nye is playing the part and totally disregards the audience. Which is a problem I've had often, that people think, you know, people who hate my work, of whom there are many, think that the best bits are thought up by the actors. When Judi Dench played Amy's View, and the same critic in the New York Times said it's absolutely impossible that David Hare has written these lines, they must be written by they're so good.
But when you were in the TV plays, when you were writing for Bill Nye, because he has, how do you put it, he has certain distinctive vocal and physical flourishes. Were you seeing and hearing those?
No.
Right.
He has self-irony, which is something I love. In other words, I think that it's a great thing. And when you say it's completely different, I don't think that it's so different. I think Peter has a way of playing the same thing, which is that there's a certain kind of Englishman who is both serious and self-comedic at the same time. He sees the joke about himself. And I think Bill and Peter's charm, I think both of them, are incredibly charming in the role. And the reason they're charming in the role is because they are self-aware. and they know that there's something funny. When Peter goes into the speech about how in the 1960s we believed in free love, I totally believe him. But he knows it's ridiculous. He knows it's ridiculous, and he plays it as knowing it's ridiculous, but on the other hand, he also believes in the ideal of it. And he hasn't lost his faith in the ideal of it. And being able to play both things at the same time is always the key to being able to play my work, because I don't see dramatic characters on stage as being any simpler than human beings are. Human beings are self-aware, and I like that on stage or in film, and I get depressed at the theatre when actors have to play sort of simple characteristics, because you know, it just seems to me not what people are like.
One of the experiences you have, which is what we've been talking about, is seeing the plays over and over again at intervals, if you wish to, if they're revived. Are you surprised? I mean, do you ever turn against the play or turn
Yeah.
onto the play?
Yeah, I get very disappointed.
But not by this one.
I'm not saying. There are things I like better than other things in this play.
Right. Are you tempted to rewrite?
No. No, I think they're just left behind. Listen, I'm so thrilled it's revived. You know, in other words, there's a big problem in British theatre, which is that the relentless pursuit of the new, which of course I love. In other words, my whole life has been about doing new work. But it does mean that we used to, when we wrote a play, you know, a whole load of us who wrote plays, would then see productions, particularly in the regions. Regional theatres don't now do productions of plays that have been done in London because they think that's, you know, the wrong way for regional theatres to go. And they may well be right. So it's a tremendous luxury for us now to get such, you know, this is here at the Park Theatre, absolutely tip-top, first-rate, brilliant revival of a play of mine. And I'm incredibly grateful, because they don't happen all that much. And when they do happen, like when Toast happened here, you know, audiences love to see plays which they may have missed. Toast, I think, was for 4 weeks in the theatre upstairs, years ago. Vertical Hour, which was sold out at the Royal Court so nobody could get into it, everybody missed.
Michael Billington, my Guardian colleague, theatre critic, he claims that there's a play of yours you weren't allowed to be revived.
Yeah.
Knuckle.
Yeah.
Tell us why.
Because I don't think it's very good.
You see, Michael Billington said it's your best play.
Yeah.
Which is quite a disagreement.
Well, Michael and I have never really seen eye to eye. I mean, it's lovely, it's sweet to have an advocate, but I think it's a cat-handed, incompetent, technically incompetent piece of writing. And so I don't let it be revived, it's true.
But you get asked.
Oh yeah, lots, yeah. People always want to do that one. It's a play, for those of you, and believe me, nobody's seen it. It hasn't been done since 1974. Well, it was done on television, which only confirmed my view of it. The best efforts of Emma Thompson. But it's a Raymond Chandler thriller reset in Guildford. The conceit is that... have you seen the play?
No, I've only read it.
Good. The conceit of the play is that you know, you do a sort of down these mean streets thing, only it's set in Guildford. I think it becomes incredibly tiresome as the evening goes on. But it was the most important play in my life, because it was the first play of mine that was, as it were, serious. I wrote satire originally, jokes. And this was my first serious play, and it was done in the West End, and in the 3-day week. It was done at the time that Edward Heath surrendered to Harold Wilson. So we opened in impossible circumstances, and it became a cause célèbre. The people who liked it adored it, particularly Harold Hobson, who was then the critic of the Sunday Times.
But also a producer virtually went...
Yeah, a man called John Sutro, who was a sort of first-nighter, meaning that he turned up in evening dress with a white silk scarf. And he was a man of the extreme right, and when I say extreme right, I mean extreme right. But he loved this play, and so he kept it on for 4 agonizing months, pouring money into it, because he believed that it was important it was on. And so my work over the years has attracted these fanatics, to whom I owe a great deal. And I'm grateful for them, particularly in those years when I was very much critically disliked. And it was in the teeth of critical opinion. And so I've been saved often by these fabulous interventions from individuals. And John Sutro, may he rest in peace, was such a man who poured money into the production.
And just on that, before we open it, in fact, the case, I think with First Flower to some extent, but certainly with Starlight, certainly with Plenty, it's very striking that critics who had hated them earlier on were then saying, this is wonderful.
Yeah, I've been, volte-face, but they always come so late, it's too late. And I always feel, why don't you trust me? If you, I know that what I do is difficult, and if it's new, I know it's difficult. But on track record, you've always changed your mind 5 years later, so why don't you once give me a good review when it first appeared? But no, the next one, they're happy to have changed their mind about the last one, but they still resist the new one. And so you would think there was a pattern by now.